gives me great pleasure to share with you our work in the area of biomaterials for drug delivery. Okay, so I'll briefly give you an overview of biomaterial strategies for drug delivery. So first, by covering a few concepts, I will be talking about what are the criteria that we have for biomaterials for different drug delivery systems, and the concept of what we call trigger responsive biomaterials and nanoparticles. External triggers, internal triggers, and combinations. And then I'll briefly talk about a few platforms, one of surfactant mimetic aerosols, which are of use in pulmonary drug delivery, and then the concept of fluidizing nanoparticles. These are the biomaterials where you enhance the permeation through various barriers like intranasal and transdermal through skin. And then the last platform I'll be talking about is the nanoparticle in situ gels. These are administered in liquid form and are triggered to form gel-like meshworks inside the body. And so they give you depots for regional drug delivery. And then a few words about the potential and the translational aspects of the technology. So to begin with, what are biomaterials? These are essentially materials that are used in the biological context, and hence they preferably need to be degradable, and of course they need to be safe and reliable in a physiologically accepted manner. There are various areas for biomaterial applications which are shown on the right. Today I'll be covering drug delivery. In my group, we work on drug delivery as well as point of care diagnostics and a few soft based medical devices like hemostatic agents. So what is the criteria of a biomaterial for it to be used as a drug delivery carrier? So the analogy that I like to give here is that of postal delivery. So essentially the letter is like the drug, whereas the envelope is your drug delivery carrier. So the envelope or the biomaterial has to be designed in such a way that first of all, the letter is protected while it is in circulation till it reaches the recipient. Second, there has to be an address which allows the letter to go to the correct recipient. And the third is that there is a stamp of approval from the post office. This is what we call as the approval from the reticuloendothelial system cells that the biomaterial carrier is recognized as self rather than foreign. And finally, at the site of the recipient, one has to open up the envelope and have access to the letter. So this brings about actually two opposing criteria. One, of a rigid envelope which is protecting and preventing any leakage prior to the target site. And second, the ability to finally open up the envelope and get access to the letter. And hence the same carrier has to fulfill both of these strategies. One, as the drug is in circulation within the carrier, when we want minimum leakage, then the address which is given in terms of the targeting strategies or the triggered strategies, and the stamp of approval, which is in terms of the ability to modulate the reticuloendothelial cell response. And finally, a more leakiness at the presence of at the target site. So we have been working with various amphiphilic moieties, phospholipids, polymers, and biopolymers to form self-assembled structures. So you can basically cause bilayered structures from amphiphilic moieties, and based on position, their packing can be altered. These can then be made to self-assemble into various kinds of structures. The most commonly known amongst these are what we call as liposomes, which are basically bilayers of these structures, and they encapsulate a core. Now, the advantage being that both hydrophilic and hydrophobic moieties can be entrapped in such structures, and you can transform them from one form to another with varying stability as well as leakiness based on the surroundings. Now, apart from this, why do we actually want to deal with submicron or nanostructures? Two major advantages that we want to modulate. First is shown on the left-hand side, which is referred to as the enhanced permeation and retention effect. What this means is in certain disease sites, the capillaries are poorly formed, and there are gaps between the endothelial cells of such leaky capillaries. We want to exploit this anatomical concept and cause the particles to leak out through this in the disease site. On the right, what is shown is that the concept of Trojan horse, which means that the particle is now mimicking an existing nutrient which the cells take up. And this leads up to the possibility of intracellular delivery. So this is by endocytosis, means the cell itself will take in your carrier to allow drug delivery inside the cell. Now the concept of triggers, this shown in this figure, the ones which are not bold are referred to as the internal triggers. What this means is that the changes in these levels are already present either in certain disease sites or in certain organs. And the carrier only exploits these changes. Whereas the ones on this side, the left, which are bold, are essentially external triggers, which means that the trigger also has to be applied externally and focused at the site. All of these triggers, either internal, external, or combination, allow you to change the characteristic of the biomaterial carrier, either in terms of degradation or leakiness. So to go on to some of the platforms for delivery that we've been working on, the first is what we call as the pulmonary surfactant aerosols. Now, this is a unique structure which is composed of various phospholipids and surfactant-specific proteins. And this actually lines the alveoli or the air sacs in our lungs. The important functionality is it reduces the surface tension at the air-liquid interface of the alveoli and hence stabilizes alveoli, reduces work of breathing. We have actually developed various platforms which mimic this natural structure and can be given as aerosols for replacement in various diseases, the commonest amongst which is that of preterm babies' neonatal respiratory distress syndrome. Moving further, we then wanted to exploit this platform for adult diseases like acute respiratory distress syndrome, where this also carries a drug. Just to highlight that instead of oral or intravenous, these forms will give you enhanced effects and retention and levels in the lungs. One of these platforms have been studied extensively by us in the lipopolysaccharide-induced lung injury model of ARDS. And this is now very relevant because this is one of the complications that we are seeing now even in COVID. So what we see here is this is the disease state, and the bronchoalveolar lavage fluid cytokine levels are significantly reduced when we use these platforms. We also then wanted to look at the possibility of having pH responsiveness for various pulmonary metastatic conditions using similar platforms. And by combination of lamellar and non-lamellar lipids, we can then cause a pH responsiveness which changes the lamellar to inverted hexagonal phases, leading to a release. And we have developed such pH responsive particles, which are then nebulized to form aerosols. And we have got, with single drug as well as with two drugs, beneficial effects over conventional forms which are given intravenously. So this is one more example where two compartment particles co-encapsulate both paclitaxel and curcumin given as an aerosol. These are the pulmonary metastatic lungs, and you see all the black clearing up in this treated group. Moving on to the external triggered nanoparticles, this is the concept of ultrasound responsive carriers. In this case, what we use is what is called as a microbubble. This is a gas-filled entity with a shell, and as we apply ultrasound at various frequencies and intensities, we can get certain mechanical and thermal effects, most of which is cavitation of these microbubbles and nanobubbles. We exploit this for a therapeutic effect because it leads to an enhanced permeation by forming transient sonopores. Tiny pores are formed which allow any actives to then go into the cells. So we've been developing micro nanobubble complexes, drug loaded directly on the bubble or linked to other nanoparticles with drugs. The advantage being we can track these particles because they are ultrasound responsive in terms of the imaging, and because of the triggered release, we actually can get an enhanced drug accumulation where the ultrasound is applied. And this then leads to improved efficacy. Moving on to fluidizing nanoparticle concept. Now, the skin is a barrier to drug delivery because the outermost layer of the skin is known as the stratum corneum, and this has a brick and mortar appearance where there is a very closely packed ceramide layer. So if we design the carriers so that they interact with this layer, we can then fluidize this stratum corneum transiently to cause enhanced permeation. And as we change the biomaterial composition, we can get either delivery only through the hair follicles or through and through across the stratum corneum. We have been using this platform for various nutrient delivery where vitamins, iron have been used in cosmetic bases to get delivery through skin. Similarly, in discussion and collaboration with our public health researchers, we have also developed oil-based forms for nutrients, vitamin D as well as other nutrients for pediatric use. Another barrier is that of the blood-brain barrier. Now, this is actually protective, preventing any toxic substances from getting into the brain. Now, one way in which we can bypass this is by exploiting the natural route of olfaction. Olfaction meaning smelling. So that's in the same way we want to design the particles which will go along the olfactory nerves through the nose into the brain. And what we see here is that the green bars denote the nanoparticles given intranasally, and this is the brain to plasma level. So the higher means more specificity of treatment, whereas these are the conventional form of the same drug given orally, which is clinically approved. And this is if you give just the free drug without the biomaterial in the nose. The next platform I'd be talking about is that of depot formulations, which are nanoparticles in situ gels. Now, the bladder is another challenge to drug delivery because when you give drugs systemically, it does not reach the bladder or the urothelium. If you give them intravasically directly through the urethra, what happens, as you can imagine, is that the drug retention is only for a couple of hours, and at the first urination, all the drug is removed. So what we have developed is in situ gelling platforms where liposomes are now incorporated within an in situ gelling system. It is liquid and hence easily instillable through the urethra. And then once it reaches the bladder, it forms a gel-like coating on the urothelium. And its target is this hinge and plaque urothelial unique layer. Based on this, we have had 80 to 100-fold increase in the retention period as well as effectiveness of various drugs within the bladder. And the interesting part is that systemic levels are negligible. We have been using this for various drugs in superficial bladder cancer as well as for immunotherapy with BCG. A similar concept of in situ gels, but this time amphiphilic in nature and non-swelling so that there's no increase in the intracranial pressure, is used as an intracerebral implant. This is meant for post-surgery in glioblastoma, which is the brain tumor. Now, what you find here is that with the implant, you have a reduction in the tumor load and a vast improvement in the survival aspect. And this is promising because this is a very hard to treat tumor. And the last platform I'll talk about is dissolvable microneedle arrays. In here, you have hair-like microneedles which are present as an array, and these can be self-administered through skin, but then they form a depot intradermally. So what happens is you peel off, so this is the microneedle array, and then you peel off the backing layer and all the needles break off and form depots inside the skin. And these are completely degradable and release drug. And we have been able to tune this for from 7 days to 6 months as required. Presently, we are looking at this for contraceptive delivery, but also has implications for vaccines. So to conclude, various platform technologies, be it biomaterials, can be modulated to make them responsive to various stimuli to get enhanced specificity either at a disease site or at a site, disease site or organ specific. And these lead to alternative routes of delivery which were otherwise not possible, and hence also lead to specificity with reduction in toxicity. And throughout our work, we have actually focused on two parts. One is translation of these technologies, and two is a clearer understanding of biomaterial cell interactions. And we have worked closely with industry partners for GMP manufacturing, GLP toxicity, as well as translation for potential commercialization, many of these products being actually commercialized. Thank you.